toward the bear side. We're not going to be happening at all. And we had a question about whether or not spondylosis, which is actually a condition that happens with the spinal column as a separate thing, known as lasket on tennis. It's one of those conditions that happens because of low back pain and injury. But I do have to, we are going to talk about osteoarthritis and fractures disc, and that will be on there. We talked about rheumatoid being the inflammatory type of arthritis. Osteoarthritis is actually a wearing down that happens in your patient. So we talk about a destruction of the joint space, but it's also because of weight bearing kind of things. So normally you see osteoarthritis happening in weight bearing joints. So knees are going to be a big place that it happens, also in the hips where you see this happening with the patient. Patient generally they're going to have pain associated with that. You also get what we call crepitus, and that's that piece, you know, that the joint is supposed to be smooth, but once you start wearing it away, you have destruction. When you move it, you can feel that creakiness that sometimes comes along with it. So crepitus is something you also see for patients who have osteoarthritis. Now, part of this is that some people say that all of us pretty much have this at some time, mainly because you see this with the wear and tear, but you also see it from repetitive injury, or people that do the same thing all the time. So you'll see osteoarthritis happen in people who, like baseball players, tennis players, people who hit things or do things with the same motions all the time, also get osteoarthritis. So initially, patients can actually have, we can apply heat to the, because that's what you see a lot of times. We're going to put some heat on there. We also use NSAIDs, because remember, all the drugs you're going to see are always going to be the same things that happen with your patients, because that's going to help with pain. Now, because this is not inflammatory, we're not working for that inflammatory piece. We're really using this for pain when you're using NSAIDs when you talk about osteoarthritis. There's some people that say, yes, you have some inflammation, but it's primarily because that bone is on top of bone, essentially what's happening over time. So what ends up happening to this person, if none of your conservative stuff works for the patient, they may end up with a joint replacement. You may also, joint replacement is the last resort, but you can also see we have artificial synovial fluids, those types of things you can have injected into the knee spaces. Those are things that are done for patients. And the patients actually can have relief for that for years. But it is something that does go away eventually, and patients will have to have it redone. But it is something that can be done for the patients. Also, you have a decrease in pain when the patient loses weight. That's one of the first things you want to try to see if they can do, because this is a weight-bearing joint. So you want to try to make sure that you have patients actually lose about 10% of their body weight. That helps. And before they go to surgery, we actually have them move a little more. If you're going to have any type of knee replacement because of osteoarthritis, that's something that doctors will have you lose weight before they do surgery. Mainly because what you're doing is, yes, I'm repairing this, but if I don't do something about the weight, because this is a weight-bearing issue, continues the process of destruction and pain that the patient has. So generally, this person has morning stiffness. Once they start moving around a little bit, it gets a little better. But the pain, I shouldn't say always, but the pain will return, especially with repetitive movement that the person has. So it is something that we treat it symptomatically, but there is destruction that happens there, and then we end up doing other things to augment treatment for the patient. But you try conservative things first, mainly because once you decide to do surgery, that's something that it's an investment kind of thing for the patient. They have to lose weight. They're going to have the prophylactic anti-embolus kind of things that are going on with that. So anti-DVTs, anti-VTE. So that's going to be the things you do for anticoagulants. Rehab is something that you do after these patients have surgery. And then you're trying to maintain mobility. Same kind of stuff we talked about with general bone surgeries that go here. It's just that osteoarthritis is not the same as rheumatoid. Yes, they both end up with pain in the joints because it's a joint kind of thing. We talk about arthritis. So it's the articulating kind of joints that you're worried about that happen with patients. But rheumatoid is inflammatory. Osteo is wearing down. Okay. Both joint spaces can be destroyed, but the process by which they happen is totally different. Okay. So that's why you don't use steroids on a patient who has osteoarthritis, because that's not what their issue is. The only time you ever see somebody who take it, that's to say, because it's not the same process. But you got a person with really, really bad pain, yeah, they'll use steroids, because we do that. Steroids are used for short-term pain management kind of thing, but it's not the drug of choice when you're talking about osteoarthritis, because that's not what the process is. Okay. Rheumatoid, autoimmune, inflammatory. Osteo is wearing down. So eventually think about erosion. You keep doing something, or the water comes into the beach, eventually the beach is gone away. That's what's happening in your joints based on the osteo.
That's a good analogy.
You got to figure out something that makes it stick in your head. All right. So the last one is a bone and joint kind of stuff, is fractures. So these are things where you actually have a break in the bone. So it can be, so the periosteum in the bone is broken. Or you cannot have, not like me with this fracture in my foot with all lit up, but I didn't break the periosteum. Periosteum is the outside covering of a bone. Okay. So fractures can happen in a lot of different ways, a lot of mechanisms by which you can have fractures. Most of them are related to trauma, but you can have them pathologically. We talked about it in osteoporosis. If you twist something, those usually produce like green stick fractures. Those are spiral fractures that you see, and a lot of times those are things that are associated with abuse. So when you're twisting the arm of a child, twisting the arm of a man or a woman who in an abusive relationship kind of thing, those are types of fractures that you see happening with that. Compound fractures are when the fracture actually extends outside the tissue. So that means the bone is sticking through the layers of the skin, which is traumatic in itself, thinking you see that, but bone is protruding out of what's going on with the patient. So you can also see comminuted fractures, which are little fragments of bone that you see inside on the x-ray. So it's like a lot of little pieces of bone in there. So just know the mechanisms by which they happen are very different, can be very different in what the patient presents with. But the thing that you're looking at is there's some type of break within the bone itself, either through the periosteum or just inside as well, inside. So what we have to do is, the nice thing about bone is that once you break it, it's already starting reknitting. So if you have a fracture, you already start healing shortly after you're injured, within hours of when your injury occurs. That's the good thing. The bad part about it is if something is pathologic and how it fits back together, that's the issue that you have. So if you don't have good alignment of the bone, malalignment, those types of things, patient can end up with complications and have to sometimes re-break the bone in order to fix it. So those are kind of things you don't want to see happen. But usually there's an obvious deformity that's associated when a patient has some type of fracture. Meaning that even though you don't have an x-ray, you can see that this looks crazy. This arm is either hanging down, because that can happen, you broke both bones in your arm. It would just have no support, so it would just be hanging down. So there's usually some type of obvious deformity that you see associated with it. When we do an x-ray, of course, we can see that the bone was broken. Sometimes you cannot see fractures on x-ray. It's rare, but that sometimes can happen. If you do an MRI, it gives you a better picture of what's happening with the bone. It will give you also a better picture of soft tissue that's happening with the patient. So what we have to do after we see that, yes, this person had an obvious deformity or fracture, or I did an MRI and I saw this person had a fracture, we're going to either support the bone, or if there's different things we do. The first line of treatment that you're going to see done, if it's something that's not complicated, I just have to realign it, that's the person that's going to get a splint. So splints are going to be supportive, maintain position that the patient has. If a splint, if I need something further than that, because I've got to make sure this bone knits together, even though it starts knitting right away, it takes about 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. That's why people are going to cast that long, to make sure the bone is actually totally knitted back together. So that's why if splint is not going to be what I need for the patient, I'm going to put on a cast. So casts are put on the patient, and that's going to be, you can have a hard cast or a soft cast. But patients are generally put those on, they can be on for anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks, depending on what's going on. You have to make sure you test for sensation, movement, catheter refill when you put a cast on, because you worry about compartment syndrome. If something is too tight, that's what you worry about. I'm not getting perfusion, so therefore I lose pulses. Remember those 6 P's? You know, pain, paresthesia, paralysis, pulselessness. Those are the things you worry about as far as circulation goes when you have colonic cast in a patient. Now, if that's not something that works and is not amenable to fixing that particular issue that the patient has, I may have a person that does what we call a closed reduction. A closed reduction means I don't cut you open. So I see that there's a deformity there, but the bone is not so displaced. What I can end up doing is actually putting it back to where it needs to be. So they do it under fluoroscopy, meaning there's an x-ray machine. They go in and they manipulate and put the bone back into alignment, and then the person has some type of cast device that's going to be on. So a splint or a cast is put on the patient, or some type of supportive device. You can put other things on too. So that's a closed reduction. You still have to worry about circulation, but it didn't cut you. Now remember, when you're moving stuff around, there might have been some damage to bones and tissue, nerves, and that kind of stuff. So you have to still look for whether they can move it, whether you have capillary refill, that kind of stuff that goes along with that. So that's closed reduction. If they can't do it that way, then open reduction means they're going to cut the patient open, fix whatever it is they have with the fracture, and close the patient up again. So you'll hear them when you're on floors where you have patients who have surgeries, they're going to go say open reduction. Means that you know this patient has an incision somewhere. They went in, they fixed it, and this fixed the bone. So there may be plates, there may be screws, there may be external fixation devices to keep stuff in place, just depending on what kind of damage they saw. Usually external fixators mean there's a lot of stuff that went on inside. So they have to have stuff that's attached to the outside. So you can see stuff kind of like makes you think about Edward Scissorhands. Stuff is sticking on the outside of the patient. So all kinds of stuff is going on there. That's usually extensive stuff that they did put back together, make sure everything is okay. You may also see pins and plates depending on how much fracturing was done, how they need to make sure that bone knits back together over that kind of thing. The good thing is that even when that's going to provide support, you know, to the area where the patient had the fracture. The bad part about it is sometimes you have to go back later and take out hardware, because sometimes it will actually start coming through the skin. And I mean, those are things that you see sometimes over time. When people had things done years ago, they have to go back to surgery and have stuff taken out. So that's the weirdest thing. You think everything should stay where it is, but it doesn't always do that. Sometimes they have to go take it out. But post-op, you want to make sure you're monitoring for signs and symptoms of impaired neurovascular status. So making sure you check for those 6 P's, okay? So that's pain, pallor, paresthesia, paralysis, pulselessness, and that cold, choicotothermy. Those are the kind of things you're looking for to see where that patient's having a complication associated with that, okay? So you're not making them move it all around. You're just making sure they can wiggle their toes. You're testing for capillary refill. Can they feel you? You know, do they have a lot of swelling? Because sometimes if you have a lot of swelling, that's there, of course those things are going to be going on, but that also may indicate we need to cut this cast off. Because compartment syndrome will actually cause death to tissue. If there's so much swelling and you have an enclosed space, just think about you keep causing pressure, and there's nowhere for it to go, so that means everything inside is going to die. So compartment syndrome is something that you don't ever want to see happen to a patient, because they can end up having, yeah, this person had this issue with this cast being on, but I also may have to worry about whether or not that tissue is viable. The patient may end up with amputation from compartment syndrome. So that's why close monitoring is key. Generally, when you have a patient who's going to have some type of casting or that kind of thing done, you elevate it, for the first 24 hours, because it's going to help decrease the swelling that's there. You may actually also put ice on it, so ice or hex alternate, because of what you're trying to do is decrease the swelling. After the fact, you can see them add heat, because heat is going to help reabsorb any swelling that's there. But raising it, putting cool, something cold on it, will help kind of decrease some of the swelling that goes on there. But pain management is key, because you don't have to manage the person's pain, but also don't ever medicate the patient so much they can't tell you something's wrong. That's one of the things you you want to make sure this patient has pain relief, but if you give them so much that they're so lethargic all the time, they can't tell you, you're going in to check, but it just may be one of those times you got busy and you couldn't go back until the second hour, and when you go back in, the patient's fingers are blue. All right, that's not kind of stuff you want to be doing. Because after 20 minutes, you know, we think about that kind of thing. Think about 20 minutes as the golden time when you talk about tissue having a problem. Patients can get foot drop. Patients can have nerve damage that lasts for a while. And it's not just, you know, not saying it's permanent, because sometimes it can be, but the thing about it is you don't realize that that paresthesia that somebody has from doing something like that may not just last for a few minutes, it could be weeks. And that patient has numbness and tingling, which can impair their rehab. Because think about it, you know you've had patients you might have taken care of in the past, you had one, and you think one toe taken off shouldn't cause as much of a problem. But toes affect your balance so much, so when you take one off, it's like you have to almost learn how to walk again, kind of thing. You don't realize just that one thing can affect your balance so much. So those are things that long term, you're thinking about what can happen with your patient because you're not careful on this side of it. Now those are the things that we do as far as some of the management of patients. In the interim, before a patient goes to surgery, you might see traction used to try to get a bone back to where it's going to be. Especially sometimes with hips on the weekend. Doctors don't always come in the hospital and want to be doing hip surgery on Saturday morning. So a lot of times you'll see a patient end up in what we call Buck's traction. It's a skin type of traction that they can use on the hip to maintain alignment. So it prevents internal rotation. Because that's one of the things that kind of tells your person has a fractured hip, is that you're going to look at them, one leg is shorter, and the other thing is it internally rotates. So we see the foot coming towards the midline. And that's something that you see with fractured hips. So what they'll do with Buck's traction is apply to the leg of the patient. It's a device you put on the outside of the patient, you strap it on. It has a weight that weighs 20 to 30 pounds, depending on how much they use for the patient. It's usually based on the weight of the patient. They're going to put that patient, align the leg, and then they're going to hang the weight off it hangs off the foot of the bed. And what it does is keep that patient's leg pulled straight so that the bone stays in alignment until they can use surgery. So traction is one of those things they can use as an interim until they know. Because if you know you got to do an open reduction of a patient and you don't have anybody there to do that, that's the kind of stuff we do. But we can use traction on other things as well, because sometimes you see cervical traction used, trying to hold things in place. But most times nowadays, really, we try to take the patient to surgery and just get it done. Because some doctors will come in and do it, because who's on call has to come anyway, it's a bad thing. They'll come in and do the surgery on the patient. But a lot of that is because in this day and age, unfortunately, you worry about getting sued. So if you saw the patient, you came in and did the evaluation, some doctors say, oh, just keep him in PO and we'll take him to surgery this afternoon, something like that. Because it's easier to do it and keep from getting sued. But that's just the way people are nowadays. I'm going to sue you about everything. I shouldn't say that right now. I'm suing my insurance company about my blood pressure medicine. If they don't approve it. I don't get it. What I'm so mad about is that last year was 768, so now it's 1,060. So what happened in 3 months to make it $300 more expensive? So it's madness. But that's the musculoskeletal stuff. Tomorrow we're gonna have a little bit on sensory, because we have, what do you call it? We have cataracts, glaucoma, that kind of stuff, hearing loss, that kind of thing. So just a few things, and mainly because you're gonna have a little exercise in class you're gonna do. So I'm gonna make you do some things so you see what it feels like for your patients that can't see you or can't feel things, that kind of thing. Just so it gives you an appreciation for what happens with them in the hospital. People don't think about it because you just automatically do stuff and don't think about taking that few minutes to say, oh, can you see me, can you hear me, whatever it is. So we don't see some of those things. And of course that's the opportunity to earn points. So, you know, just to be jacked up for a few minutes is points. So then we'll go over where you need to set your focusing to do your, to get ready for your assessment. And then of course next week, to Monday you're off. Tuesday you're going to be here to do your exam with,
Monday we're off.
yeah, you're going to, there's somebody that's going to be here to proctor the exam on Tuesday. Because I called, he actually just got his doctorate, he just graduated, so I have to call him Dr. Charles. That's what I call him every morning when I'm over in office. So he'll be here to do your exam at 10. So when you're done with that, you can go, and then I will put up a few things that have to do with the next assessment, so everybody knows where we're going. But I will, because he doesn't have access to all my stuff over there, so he won't have any math questions. Darn. But, and then I will actually, but the thing is, I won't be, we're out of school. I'll come out here. I'll come back here Thursday, we'll be out of town, so I'll take a look at the degree. And so you won't find out your grades till the weekend. Okay? All right. So you'll go to the church and pray on Easter.
I know, I'm gonna have a heart attack. I'm gonna have insomnia.
Don't do that.
Oh, wait.
That's all you have to do.
You know, just that one test.
Will you stop it? That's not allowed. Don't wear that anymore. All right. So I will see you guys in the morning. I'm going over there right now. So I can.
have a question about this.
No.
You get the 60 like something close. We rounded to a whole.
Yeah, and then you'll have to.
Oh, yeah,
But you always need to round it.
I
got this
one. So which one is the one for Poland?
Yeah, I'm going over there.
It should be, I would call it, it's either here, or I'll look it up.
Yeah.